We have here today on the Moms Without Capes podcast, Kimberly Tara. Welcome to the show, Kimberly.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today.
Kimberly is a dedicated wife, mother to 4 children, and a driven entrepreneur. As a CPA and certified tax coach, she specializes in minimizing taxes and maximizing finances for female service providers earning 6 and 7 figures. Kimberly also hosts the Messy Wonderful podcast and blog where she shares insights on motherhood, money, business, and travel. Passionate about financial education, Kimberly focuses on teaching moms and their young children about money, finance, and entrepreneurship. Today, Kimberly and I will be chatting about what it takes to balance our roles of mom, partner, and professional. So I'm excited to have you on the show today. But before we dive into all of the messy, wonderful, let's talk first about your journey and what brought you to be where you are today.
Yeah, gosh. So I think I should start with I'm a type A planner. And so some of the things that I had laid out and planned for myself didn't actually happen. And I had a few moments throughout my life that I was like, gosh, this is not like, this is big. And now it's funny that I look back and I'm like, Kimberly, that really wasn't that big of it. Like when you're in college and when you're, things that seem so pivotal in your moment in your life in that moment, you kind of look back as you become older and wiser and you're like, okay, that really wasn't that big of a deal. So I would say in a nutshell, my journey to where I am is most importantly, I'm a wife and a mom, and we have 4 little kids. They are 6, 4, 2, and almost 1. So I will do the math for everyone because everybody's heads you can just tell they start spinning. They're all 22 months apart. They weren't exactly planned to be 22 months apart, but my husband and I knew from whenever we started a family, we did want them to be closer in age. I was always going to have 2 kids, a boy and a girl and a boy, didn't care. We have 3 boys and a girl. So that leads me sort of to my professional journey in that, so I was actually a chemical engineering major for 3.5 years before I switched to accounting. And that was one of those pivotal moments where I remember just breaking down because I felt like I was letting my parents down and I was letting myself down and my plans down, right? All of these things. And it was the best thing that happened to me. And I love what I do now. And so switched to accounting within like 2 weeks. My advisor was emailing. She's like, you're not signed up for any engineering classes next semester. What's going on? So it was a whirlwind, and I love what I do. I love what I do. And I love the challenge of so I'm a CPA and my firm focuses on tax strategy. So I feel like I get to bring in those little puzzle pieces of the engineering now. So I still get to kind of do some engineering, if you will, not quite the same. And I did my stint in public accounting, which a lot of CPAs do. And I was watching these women, these managers, FaceTiming their kids to put them to sleep at 8:00 at night, 5 out of the 7 nights during tax season. And, I really felt like when I switched from engineering to accounting, that I was sort of getting a second chance because I knew I always wanted to be a mom. That was always, always, always going to be a priority for me. But I also knew that I always wanted to work and I was going to have to find the balance of the two, because I was really fortunate that my mom worked, but she was a very present mom and had some flexibility as an entrepreneur herself. So I felt like I was getting this second chance by moving more into accounting versus engineering, which is still incredibly male dominated and makes it very difficult in the workforce. Accounting's really not much better. So that was when the wheels started turning, because I was like, I'm an Enneagram 3. So I was like, I'm gonna be partner in 8 years. The next person, they did it in 10. So I'm going to do it in 8, right? And as I'm sitting there watching them doing great at my job, soaring, I'm like, but do I really want that? I've had a couple of times in my life where I've realized my professional goals are in direct conflict with my personal goals. And so you can't, it's hard. I don't want to say you can't, it's hard to have professional goals and personal goals and not have them be in alignment. So the wheels started turning. Like, what do I want to do? What is this going to look like for me? The imposter syndrome. Am I good enough to go out on my own? Is now the right time? So made the decision. It was time to go out on my own and gave my notice, filed my business documents, and found out I was 10 weeks pregnant. with our first child.
How life can
How
throw
life,
a
yeah,
ball.
right. It just is what it is. So I was like, well, we're doing this thing, right? He wasn't obviously finding out at 10 weeks. He wasn't, he was our little souvenir from Europe. He wasn't 100% planned, but it was wonderful. And, now having 4 kids, I'm grateful that he came when he did, right? Because here we are 4 kids later. And, so we did it. And my business has really served our family in a way. I get questions all the time. Why aren't you making more? Why don't you have more clients? Why don't you do more marketing? All the things. And the reality is that my business has served our family in how it's needed to serve us. And no, I don't make 7 figures. Yes, I'm perfectly okay with that. And I'm unapologetic about putting my kids first. I feel like I have the rest of my life to make money. And I just, life's not all about money. I talk a lot about building wealth. And I really, truly think that wealth is not just about money and finances. Wealth is about so much more in life. And, that's why we started the blog, because I needed a creative outlet. My husband is an engineer. So we are very math numbers people. And we get a lot of questions about how we travel with how we travel with a 3-month-old, now how we travel with 4 kids. And I wanted to share that because, traveling with 4 kids, it is a lot and it's not easy, but the memories and the experiences that we're having together make everything worth it. And I want to share that with other parents. I don't want them to give up pieces of themselves or think this is too hard. It can be difficult, but it also can be done. And I'm very passionate about that. I'm very passionate about really finding balance in life and, really prioritizing the things that are the most important. And I think our society has gotten to this point of it always being about money. And I just, I don't think that that's what it's all about all the time.
Which is really funny. Like, it's ironic that you are a CPA
It is.
that you believe that,
Mhm.
there's so much more to life than money. And I think it sounds like that has really driven how you've created your CPA business.
It is.
On that
Yeah.
belief. So tell us, can you give us like an overview of what building your business right now, like you're in it, you're in
I'm
your
in it.
business, and building your family, which you're very much in that as well.
Yes.
Can you give us just a kind of a brief overview of what that looks like for you? 'Cause you're doing
Absolutely.
it at the same time.
Yeah. So I say that all the time, right? I've simultaneously grown my business and my family. And while it wasn't planned, I've made it work. So, I hit 6 figures in my business within the first 12 months, but within 18 months, I was completely burnt out. I was saying yes to everyone because there's this fear when you leave a W-2 paying job, right? And all the benefits that come along with that. And you worry about, will I make that money up, right? And my husband and I, we both had student loans from college that needed to be paid. We had this new baby, and you'll hear, I guess, by the 18-month mark, we were expecting again, almost, I think. And so I was burnt out. I knew that I felt like I was giving more to my clients and my business than I was giving to my kids. And it was supposed to be the other way around. So that was a really defining moment for me. So I started my business May of 2016. And in January of 2018, that was when I made a whirlwind. I mean, whirlwind for me, like within 3 weeks, because I'm a planner, I'm a thinker, I'm a calculated, I'm a put a spreadsheet. 3 weeks, I made a decision to go out for training in San Diego. I'm in New Orleans to become a certified tax coach to get this additional licensure. And that was really where I learned how to become a tax strategist and lean into those skills as a CPA. And what was really incredible was they also had some additional training and resources on actually just running a business. And it's funny because I felt like as the child of 2 entrepreneurs, I knew a lot about it. And I did. I was very fortunate to probably have a way higher starting point than many other entrepreneurs, but I still had a lot to learn. I had to get out of that mentality of the billable hour, which I was used to in public accounting. I accounted for every 15 minutes of my time all day long, right? I had to gain the confidence to stop saying yes to everyone and those clients who weren't paying me my value and my worth. And that's really hard, especially as a woman. I was working with a lot of male business owners at the time. I was 25 when I started my business. So here, all of these older men. And so I just always felt like I was having to prove myself and step up. And so that was really a shift in my business for me to lean into the confidence to say no to clients who weren't a good fit or didn't respect my value, to charge what I was worth, and to really know my value, and to also streamline instead of doing all the things. I mean, if it was some sort of accounting issue, I was doing it. That is not how my firm operates anymore. So after 2018 and shifting to that, and gaining the confidence to say, okay, I can still make the same amount of money, right? That was when I really started leaning into getting my time back and refining and saying, okay, we're at a comfortable revenue point. Now it's more important that I start getting my time back, because we were probably getting close to wanting a third baby at that point, right? Because it just kept going. So it was more important. You really realize as a mom with a tiny human, just how little time you actually have in the day. And as you add more, you realize how much less and less time you have. So it really became this delicate balance of, okay, I need to keep the revenue where our family needs it to be. I don't need to grow it necessarily. It's providing a comfortable lifestyle, but I need to get time back so that I can be present with my kids, so that I can be the one to drop them off, so that I can be the one to pick them up from school, so that I can go when it's mom muffins with mom day, right? And all of those little things in between. And that's really what it's been for the last probably 4 or 5 years now. And after our daughter was born last June, by October, I told my husband, I was like, look, I have given physically, mentally, emotionally, breast milk. I mean, I have given to y'all. Like, I have given. You've done your job, because I wanted to be more present at home. But I need a turn, because I love what I do. I love working. I love the sense of self-identity that I have in my work. I love speaking with my clients. I really love it. And so I told him, I said, I really want to grow. And I also realized that it's really just me and one other part-time employee, and we provide a very elevated client experience. And I was having money mindset issues. I will tell you, see, like, I'm very transparent. I was having a lot of mindset issues around being a 7-figure business owner and thinking that wouldn't allow me to be a good and present mom. I had a lot of mindset issues around that. And I don't think that there's anything, I don't think that the whole 7-figure thing that we see all over social media, for me, it's more about profitability and the bottom line, right? But I had to get over this money mindset that I can have $1 million firm and absolutely still be a good mom. I actually think it's going to enable me to be a more present mom, because I'm going to have help. We're currently hiring for another CPA, right? So me not being the only point of contact for our clients will allow me to step away and spend that time with my kids, not worrying in the back of my mind that somebody needs me in the firm. So there's been a lot of mindset work, and I'm a money person, right? I'm a business person, I'm a finance person, but I have had a lot of work around that to make sure that I'm designing my practice in a way that still wholeheartedly serves our clients, but allows me to be a mom and really stepping into growing. And so I started that journey about October of last year. I had never done any marketing or advertising. I'm still not really doing a lot because I don't really like it. But as I meet more women who I hear their horrible stories about money or CPAs or things like that, it's really motivating me to keep pushing my message out there, because it's for them, it's not for me.
Right, right. So have you found that the being able to balance life and work and all the other plates that you're spinning has evolved and changed, and how so, like through this different seasons of parenthood?
Yes. So, oh my gosh, it's looks so different because you're juggling, especially juggling more kids, right? So you've got like age differences, number differences, and we had, I would say, mostly full-time help for our first 2 kids. Our third baby is a COVID baby, so I ended my pregnancy with no help. We started his life with no help. And we have severely struggled to get help for our 4th child. We tried, and we had one person just stop showing up. So it got to a point where it was actually easier for me to plan my day around not anticipating any help, me knowing that I was going to have to be mom and business owner. And it was easier for me to just work my schedule around that than be let down the day of. So I really have experienced having to do both and having to be both a full-time mom and a full-time business owner these last 12 months now. It's really been difficult. So what I would say is I've gotten really clear on my boundaries, and I've gotten really clear on asking for help. And that is such a hard one for me, and asking for help both in my business and at home.
I was going to ask that
Yes.
because you had mentioned the word help with the addition of each child. And I was wondering what kind of support or help have you, because you said about hiring a new CPA in your business, but what other help and support have you had in the different areas of your life?
Yes. So my husband is wonderful. He's not really great about remembering like if the kids need to eat or if they need to go to the doctor, but he's my biggest supporter of everything. If I ask him, and we had that little thing like in the beginning of our marriage, like I wanted him to take out the garbage, and I'm like, certainly he's going to notice that the garbage is overflowing. Right. He's not actually going to notice that the garbage is overflowing. But if I ask politely, will you take the garbage out? He's like, absolutely. Right. He helps with the laundry. Like we are equals in the things that we do. I have to remember, I definitely carry more of the mental load, right?
I was going to say the project manager.
Very much more. So we're actually going to start implementing, I use ClickUp for my project management in my firm. And we're actually about to start using that on the home front as well. Because then I can just plop his tasks, and our oldest son, our 6-year-old, has autism. And so he's high functioning, but he does better with reminders and routines. And so we're actually going to be creating a board for him too, for the things that are his tasks that he owns. So we're actually going to be bringing that into our family, because sometimes I think I'm not a good communicator about all of the things that need to be done, or I keep my laundry list of things that I need to do here written on my desk, and he can't see them. And he's just not thinking the way that I am about the laundry that needs to get done, and the groceries that need to be picked up, and the dinner needs to be cooked. So, but in verbalizing and communicating, hey, we need to get this, and this done today, and I need you to do these two because I'm doing this one, and just reminding and having him put reminders in his phone, that has been incredible. So I have a very supportive husband. My parents are also very involved with our kids' lives. My brother, I have a younger brother, but he doesn't want kids. So the 4 grandkids that my parents currently have, those are the 4 that they will probably have for the rest of their life. So they are very involved. They still work full time, but I can count on them if I have a late meeting and I know ahead of time, my mom will go pick the kids up from school and bring them home to me, and that gets me an extra 30 minutes. So very, very fortunate. And then we have a housekeeper that comes every other week. And so I know that at the bare minimum, our house is the toilets, because we have boys. So the toilets and bathrooms need to be cleaned frequently, as we are learning to pee still sometimes. Like they're 6 and 4. So I feel like we should have it down, but we do not. We do not have it down. Any moms out there who have boys will totally resonate with what I'm saying. Or like you go in the toilet's not flushed. I mean, all the boy things, we have that here. So I have help with that. And then in my business, and we've leaned in at home, right? Like we do a lot of grocery pickups. I went to the mall last weekend, and I hadn't been to the mall in I don't know how long. We lean into deliveries and grocery pickups and just all the things. I don't waste time I tell my mom, like, you put us in the car, and then you took us out the car at the grocery, and then you shopped for an hour, and then you put us back in the car, and then no, I don't have time for any of that.
5-hour process.
Yes, I don't have time for that. So we lean into a lot of those things at home. And then in my business, I have my admin assistant, and she's a huge help, helping me offload. And like I said, we are hiring another CPA. So that's going to be another huge lift and just giving off of my plate that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah. When you mentioned about the ClickUp, I actually became a fair play facilitator, fair play method. I don't know if you've.
I'm not familiar with that. Do I need to know about this?
Yeah, it's based on a book by Eve Rotsky, and it's all about like gender equity as far as like domestic and childcare responsibilities and the division of labor, and really making that mental load, like the invisible, visible, and providing like a system to be able to communicate about what needs to get done, so that, because it usually falls on the woman, right? So that we aren't the project managers, like we aren't the ones, like it provides space for the other person, the partner, to take full ownership of
Yes,
what it
I
takes to
love
run
that.
a house. And so but the ClickUp, I know like that some of the facilitators have gotten into like using those project
Mhm.
management systems as a way to organize.
Yes. Well, and what made me think about it was actually a training that I was doing because I'm very big into training and self-development and professional development. That's just who I am. And I was listening to something and it talked about when you dump things on your executive assistant and you just dump all these
A
things on them.
random assignment of tasks.
Yes. And so then they're like, okay, well, which one's the priority? But you said this was a priority. And so by clearly putting it into a system and then marking it with a priority. So now they don't feel dumped on. You're just typing it into the system, right? And then we have like a to-do and then an up next and a parking lot. And then I'm also prioritizing in the to-dos high, medium, and low to be very clear and with due dates and who it's assigned to. And I'm like,
Right.
I need to assign I need to implement this at home so that there's clarity around not just a dump of 20 things onto my poor husband. And he can't read my mind to know what's the most important.
Right.
So having that clarity in the communication is key. So I'm going to have to go because we have a lot of conversations at our house about gender equity, right? And the boys already have started helping with the laundry. They help me cook, right? We talk about how the girls play with Legos, right? Like we have a lot of Legos at our house and we do Legos too. The one thing I will say is I do not kill bugs. And we have big roaches here in New Orleans, and I do not kill the roaches. There's no gender equity there. None. None.
It's all on your husband.
My 6-year-old better start learning how to kill them because there is no gender equity when it comes to killing roaches in the New Orleans area.
Yeah, I imagine they're huge. We lived in Georgia for a while.
Yes.
And I had nightmares
Yes.
about because they were just like common things. And
yes.
now
And I think they're way worse here because we did
live
live in Atlanta for a couple of years. Trust me, that's nothing compared to what we see here.
We'd be standing on chairs a lot.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about the supermom syndrome.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts about that?
I have a lot of thoughts on that. It is a daily battle to remind myself that I am not supermom and I do not need to be supermom, and that taking on all of the responsibility, it doesn't prove my worth or my value, that it actually detracts from my quality of life and then therefore the quality of life of my family, because I become a not very nice person when I'm stressed, right? And it doesn't lead to open communication. And one realization that I really have had, obviously I've had that realization with each child being born, like you become really, really aware of just how little time you actually have. And so little things that used to mean so much to me, I'm like, that's really not that big of a deal, Kimberly. Let it go. Like in the whole scheme of life and happiness and growth, it's not that big of a deal. So that's been really huge for me. The other thing that I've realized from the supermom perspective is when you the more you split your attention, the lesser the quality of each thing is. So, I was doing everything at home, right? I was running my tax practice. I was running the blog. And I've realized that I can't give 100% to 3 things. It's not possible.
Humanly possible.
So it really is not. I mean, I want to think that it is. And some days you will see me trying so hard, but it's really not humanly possible. It's not good for my family. It's not fair to my tax practice. It's not fair to the blog. And it's really not fair to myself. It's really not fair to myself.
Right.
So I'm really stepping back. The blog is sort of self-sustaining. I post when we're traveling now. We just got back from a 16-hour road trip to the Wisconsin Dells. I'll be posting about that, some of our lessons learned, things that we suggest, but taking the pressure off of myself to say, we have to post something every single week.
Right.
I have to be getting on Instagram. Removing all of that has been so freeing for me, and just saying, right now, I'm a mom. Right now, I'm focusing on my tax practice and serving my clients there, and everything else is extra. And maybe it will happen one day, and maybe it won't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you said it's a daily battle,
It
because
is.
there's quite often like it's that imposter syndrome that comes up because I feel like I work with super moms. I work on helping them slow down, right? Like I chose this because it's my own battles that I can bring
Yes.
to the table and my own solutions. And so that whole thing of like feeling like so overwhelmed, and like there's days where I'm like where I that old belief sets in, whereas
Mhm.
I can do it all. It
Yes.
really has to like I have to like be very intentional about grounding myself and recognizing that I can't possibly like recognize my humanness
Yes.
and recognize that I can't do it all. And
Yes.
you're right about you can't do it all and then expect each area to have 100% because
No.
it's just not going to happen.
It's not. And it's funny. So I've actually, in growing my practice this year, I've been traveling some for work, attending conferences, networking events. And any mom who's ever traveled and left the kids knows how much preparation it is. More work to prepare the household
Yeah.
for me to be gone than for me to pack myself to go. I'm like, maybe I just shouldn't go, because we've had those thoughts, right? And then I remember my mom picked me up from the airport from one of my trips, and I don't know how we got started, but she's like, I really and truly don't know how you do it with the 4 kids and running a full-time practice. I really, it took your dad, me, and Chance, my husband. She's like, it really took all 3 of us to do what you do. I'm like, but I even left you with dinner and clean laundry. Like, y'all didn't,
like you
she's
didn't
like,
even have to do it all.
yeah. She's like, I really, really don't know how you do it. And so sometimes people ask me and I'm like, I really, really don't, like, it's hard to put into words sometimes, but I feel like as moms in seasons of life, sometimes we do just have to do, and we don't 100% know how we do it. But I think, to your point, it is really important for us to stop and reflect and say, how can we not have it all be this way? Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes we're just in seasons where it really does need to be this way. And I remind myself that my kids will bathe themselves one day. They will wipe their butts one day. They will, cut their own food one day, or not need it cut into minuscule pieces, right? Like, those days are coming.
Right.
And so this is a season, but also reflecting on, like, well, why did it take 3 of y'all and it only takes 1 of me, right? And so I don't know that there's a hard and fast answer for that exactly, but I think recognizing it and starting the awareness and the conversation around it, like, well, do y'all think that that's fair that 3 of y'all do what one of me does? I think the awareness and the open communication is at least a start.
Yeah, agreed. So any final advice that you'd like to offer the listener?
Well, so I wanted to offer my freebie, which is my monthly meal planning system. And this is something that I started the month after Vivian, our daughter, was born last year. And we had 4 kids, and I knew that I was going to eventually be returning to work full time. So we have some very, very healthy eaters. My husband's 6'3". I'm only 5'1". You can't tell, but I'm only 5'1". But my boys are strong eaters like their dad. So we cannot afford to eat out. It's also not very healthy. It's also not very, like, time effective with little kids, melting down at night. And then we had COVID and all the things, right? So, but the Blue Aprons, the Home Chefs, all of those, it's not enough. It's not enough food for us.
Yes.
And then we're still like prepping for 30 or 40 minutes. I'm like, this is not. So I paid you $40.
I had that same thing. I tried some meal prep things and I was like, what is the point of this? I still have to make it all.
And it didn't save me any money, and my kids don't like it half the time. And I'm like, this is bull.
This is not working.
So at one point I was having like a biz bestie conversation, and she's like, we try and introduce all of these new foods and make these fancy foods for our kids. And she's like, they just want the same thing over and over and over again. Why are we fighting the battle? And I was like, that is so smart. Like, because my kids, they love the boxed Velveeta pasta, and I don't want them to eat that all the time. And my mom's like, Kimberly, if that is the worst thing that they're eating, like, and you're still giving them a vegetable and a protein, like, right? Like, that's the part of, like, 4th child Kimberly has let it go. And I'm like, you know what? Y'all want to eat Velveeta 7 days a week? Like, fine, man. So I came up with a system that mimics the Home Chefs, right? Where you're planning a month in advance and then you're preparing. So it has cut down on my prep time. It has severely cut down on the amount of time that I have to do each night, because I kind of was getting mad that my husband was outside playing with the kids after work in school, and I was stuck in the kitchen getting dinner ready for all of them. I was like, I want to be outside too, playing with them, right? This is my time. So my monthly system, it teaches you, it's not my meals. I'm not giving you your meals for the month. I'm teaching you how to make the meals that your kids will eat, because we all know that your kids are going to eat chicken nuggets, but my kids are only going to eat dino chicken nuggets, but your kids aren't going to touch chicken, right? Like I got a kid who won't touch rotisserie chicken. And I'm like, dude, you have got to learn to eat rotisserie chicken in this family, because the $5 Costco chicken is life in this house. So this is teaching you how to kind of look at the things that your kids like, the things that your family likes, how to repeat them without feeling like you're eating the same thing night after night, because while your kids might like that, you probably don't like it. And it's also going to have you, because again, money, it's going to help save you money. It's going to help reduce the waste of food, but more importantly, it's really going to give you more time back to be and use it. Promise me that you will use it to be with your kids, because that was the whole point. I was tired of, the age old what's for dinner question, because nobody tells you that when you become a wife and a mom, that's like your job for the rest of the days. So I wanted to be out in the yard with my kids. I wanted to be chalking and riding bikes. I didn't want to be stuck in the kitchen. And this has solved that problem for us. So I would love to share that with your listeners and kind of teach them how to build this system on a monthly basis, so that they can spend more time with their family.
All right, awesome. So I will put the link to that inside today's show, into the show notes of today's episode. Do you have what do you do for fun?
Oh gosh. So I have really been trying to work into getting back into exercising, 4 kids later, still kind of healing my diastasis. But I know it's not for most people, but I actually really like exercising, and it took getting out of the habit and not having that in my routine for me to really realize. And there actually have been studies done on personality types that need exercise, and I am that personality type. So I've really been working on that. I love listening to audibles because I love learning, and then traveling. I always have at least 1 or 2 vacations coming up that I'm looking forward to.
So what vacations do you have for the summer coming up?
So we just got back from the Wisconsin Dells. That was our big one. We have a beach trip coming up with that. Our 6-year-old has been begging to go to the beach, and he doesn't know it yet. So we can't wait to take him. We also have a Disney trip planned for November. My husband and I have our first couples getaway with 2 of our friends from college in, I do not know how long that it's been since we've been on a trip like that, maybe since our first anniversary. So like 8 or 9 years now. We have Connecticut over Labor Day for one of my husband's, his best friends getting married. And I have a work trip to Dallas and a work trip to Denver. So I've got some travel. That's why we have a travel blog, because like we travel, right? It's like, we have 1 or 2 trips coming up.
It's like amazing. Yeah.
Now that I've sat and listed it out to you, I'm like,
like 10 trips.
I do like to travel for fun, and I love like looking forward to it and doing a little bit of the planning of it, and thinking about, my brain is so logistical. Like I'm going to visit. I was just on the phone with a friend last night who lives in Atlanta, and she doesn't have any kids. She's our fun aunt. And I was like, well, maybe Vivi and I can come visit you for a girls trip. And she's like, yes, I would love that. So my mom's like, okay, am I checking a bag or am I carrying on? What am I getting her a seat for the car seat, or am I checking the car seat? Am I pushing her? Am I baby wearing her? Like my brain, like it's such a fun puzzle for me. So I love it. And then I go share it on the blog, what worked for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So do you have a book that you could recommend?
Yes. So I would recommend We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rodgers. I read that book about 3 years ago, not long after COVID started, and it has changed the way that I just perceive help. Quite honestly, as a woman, as a business owner, it really, so even if you're not a business owner, I still think that this is a great book, a great mindset shift, especially in asking for help.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot about that aspect of it, because I read it probably as long as you, if not even longer, but it was a book that I forgot she had talked all about, like the personal assistant and like being able to,
and how you're generating a job for someone else, right? Because I think as women, not only do we have this roadblock against asking for help, but then it's like, but then I'm paying someone and
Yeah.
like they're working for me. No, you're creating another job and another
An
source of income for
opportunity.
that person to take back to their family. So again, a lot of mindset shifts
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah. All right. And then finally, where can everyone find you?
Yes. So if you want to check out the blog, which is where, you'll hear a lot about our travel, that is messywonderful.com. But if you want to message me on Instagram, I call it a landing page. I'm not really big on social media, but I love the voice DMs and getting to hear your voice and getting to share my voice. And so you can send me a DM at Tara CPA Firm on Instagram.
All right. And you can find all of Tara's info, or Tara, all of Kimberly's info in the show notes. So thank you so much for joining us today and sharing with us your wisdom.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I loved it.